Good morning and welcome. This morning I want to take your mind off the stormy weather and introduce you to a lovely book entitled Walking on Sunshine, 52 Small Steps to Happiness. And it is our good fortune here on Shannonside Northern Sound to be joined by the author, Rachel Kelly. Rachel, good morning.
Good morning to you.
And thank you very much for taking my call. Rachel, maybe with a name like Kelly, there has to be a good, strong Irish connection, and I think Wexford is your county.
Indeed, yes. No, my grandfather's Irish, and I spent all my holidays in Wexford, near Gorey, on the coast, and had a lovely time. We used to take the ferry over, and I have very, very happy memories, and I still am. I have cousins in Dublin, and I was over there last year, so I'm back and forth, and my father now has the house in Wexford, so we go there too still. So I'm back and forth to Ireland.
Good. Yeah. Now we've established your Irish credentials, and they're impeccable. We'll move on to your book. I suppose the first thing maybe you could tell our listeners a little bit about what brought you to writing such a book. I know you've had another one out maybe when that kind of set the ball rolling, but this particular one, Walking on Sunshine.
Well, what happened is I've had a long battle with depression, sort of nearly 20 years now. And what happened was last year I wrote a memoir about that battle. It was called Black Rainbow, and it was about my experience of having been very unwell. But the thing is, I did get better, and I recovered. And I recovered quite a few years back, about 4 or 5 years ago. I've been well, and I wanted to share how I'd got better after this long battle. And I decided to keep a diary of my year every week, and that was what led to this new book, Walking on Sunshine, 52 Small Steps to Happiness, because I wanted to share the strategies that just made such a difference to me. And I think the other thing is I run workshops for mental health charities, and I've been doing that for a while now. So I've been sharing ideas with other people who find life difficult. I run them for Mind and Depression Alliance, and a lot of these ideas, they're not just things that have helped me, they're things that have helped other people, and I just wanted to get out there and share them.
Yeah, so these are tried and tested strategies, and I suppose just to say to our listeners, it's a small book. It'll fit easily into a handbag, for example, and it's beautifully presented and indeed elegantly written. You've divided it, Rachel, into 4 seasons.
Yes, I mean, I think that's important. I think that each season has different challenges. I find that through my own year. And I think this time of year is particularly challenging. The low light, the lack of sunshine, and I think a lot of people do find it a demanding time of year with Christmas. So it has its joys, but it has its pressures, and it can be a difficult time for people. It can be a lonely time. So I wanted to reflect that about how I sort of different things help at different times of the year, and there are very particular things for the winter months that I use. So I did want to structure it in that way. How the different seasons have different challenges, and I think also I'm a mother, and I think there's something around the school year, and there are some challenges there with exams and the pressure that our children are under. There's a lot of pressure for teenagers, and a lot of the teenagers, I do also work in schools, and a lot of teenagers are finding life difficult, and that's reflected in the school year as well. So I do think there is a seasonal point to be made.
Yeah, and I know that it's a book that I think you can open at any page, and there's going to be some little nugget there that's going to help anybody with their day. But I suppose too, we have to acknowledge that it's not really, if you like, normal in quotes, to be happy all the time.
No, I think that's right, and I think that I don't even think you can pursue happiness directly necessarily. You can't go out and grab it. But what I do think is that there are ways of thinking, there are ways of behaviour which make it more likely to flourish. And I think, as you say, I think the psychologists normally divide it into 5 main kind of states of being. We can be happy, sad, angry, frightened, and shamed. A sort of sense of disgust, and all of them have a part to play, and they've all had a part to play in evolution. So, we're not going to get rid of sadness. But what I'm trying to share is, I think that if we can stay calm and grounded, first of all, happiness is more likely to flourish. And in addition, when we face the inevitable challenges that are part of our human condition, if we come at it from a place of calm, from a place of being that little bit steadier, we're better able to handle it. And I think this has been very much hard-won experience because my depression was sort of anxiety-driven and feeling in this terribly anxious, overwhelmed state. And actually, that's not a good state either for happiness to flourish or to cope when the inevitable dramas come.
It sounds like, Rachel, what you're describing there is that we need to kind of train ourselves all the time, if you like, to be calm so that when the big challenges come, they won't knock us sideways quite to the same extent.
And I think what's so exciting, and one of the things that I'm so excited about this book, really, because there is now real evidence. There's a science of happiness. You know, we can see certain activities, certain ways of behaving do change our brains. Our brains are malleable. There's things we can do, and I think the links between body and mind are being really understood now. So the point is, if we can be physically calm, we are automatically mentally calm. And equally, if we're mentally tense, we're physically tense. So sometimes what I found in my workshops, one of the things we do is if someone's very distressed or their head is a real mess, we come at it the other way around. Work with your body, and that way you can relax your mind. So in the book, I do share quite a few breathing techniques.
Yes, I know the 3 steps to use with regard to breathing. You mentioned those quite extensively. Yeah,
there's a 3-step breathing exercise, which is 3 minutes. It's just basically pausing, coming in, reflecting, and then going back out again in a very kind of guided way. And I set it out in the book. And what I've found over time is I do it so often. I know all the words in my head now.
Yeah.
And you can sort of internalize how to do it, and then it automatically triggers. They call it the bit of the nervous system that relaxes you. I get in a muddle. It's the parasympathetic or the...
And you've also mentioned there just earlier about the link, obviously, between our physical health and our mental health. You're very strong, I know, on nourishing your body correctly.
Yeah, I think that's right. And just on the breathing, the even easier one is just one finger on the nose. Halves the rate at which you breathe and automatically calms you down. I use it a lot with children if they're in a state.
Yeah, I suppose reduce breathing is what we're on to, because somebody is agitated when they're over breathing. So automatically, if you reduce it, you're calming down.
Yeah, and I think the links between diet and our ability to be calm, there's just so much exciting work being done there. And mood and food are hugely linked. So if we think of how we were designed, we would see the lion across the savannah, we'd be frightened, and we'd want something sweet and to give us this quick energy rush, and then we'd run. But what happens now is we feel stressed, we feel anxious, we reach for the donut or the biscuit, but we stay sitting at our desk.
Yes.
And so we get this sort of sugary energy rush, which actually feeds into our anxiety. So there's lots of ways that our current lifestyle is not really suited to our evolutionary brain, and we have to work hard at really nourishing the brain with, they call them the happy foods, and I do believe they make a huge difference. And we know so much serotonin is made in the stomach.
In the stomach, yeah. Now, I notice here too, on page 26 in the book, you mention prayer, and you have a lovely prayer from St. Teresa of Avila.
Yeah. Well, I am a Catholic, and I do find it's very important for me. I know not everybody's religious, but I think that even if you're not religious, I think a sense of a higher spiritual power, a sense of a kind of acceptance. There's a phrase, what we resist persists. And I think we do have to cultivate a sense of acceptance, and we're not always in charge. I think there's a great culture that we can fix everything, we can sort everything. Well, unfortunately, we can't. And I do find that a sense of a higher power is something that really feeds into calm for me.
Yeah, and I'm just dipping in and out here of the book, Rachel. The 60% rule, maybe so many of us seek to be perfect and just drive ourselves crazy in the process.
Yeah, I think this is a really important one. It's especially relevant if there's any women listeners, because certainly women present twice as often with depression as men, certainly in the UK. And I think that feeling of we've got to be perfect, we've got to be good mothers, we've got to be good at work, we've got to be good friends, daughters. I think we put a lot of pressure, and it's not just women, I'm men too. And I think allied to perfectionism are some very worrying things. I mean, often translates to a sort of workaholism. You keep pushing yourself. It's a very often also links with a very harsh, critical voice. You're not good enough.
Yes.
This kind of anxious striving. And I think I've had to learn that myself, that, we're good enough as we are. And I love the 60% rule, which is, it was actually two friends of mine in couples counselling, and they were complaining about the marriage and saying, well, it's not quite 90%. Well, it's not really 80%. Well, it's more like 70%, maybe 60%. And the marriage therapist said, 60% is great. And I just really, when I hear that, I just feel calm. If anything, if you're hitting 60%, that is fantastic.
And finally, maybe you tell our listeners about the HALT technique, HALT.
Yes, this is something I use a lot. So it's about really sort of cultivating a self-awareness and just not rushing. So if you're feeling very angry or you want to react quickly to something, just give yourself this moment to remember HALT. So just check through a little checklist. Hungry? Are you hungry? Often our mood is way over the place, all over the place if we're hungry. Angry, lonely, or tired. And just address each of those needs before you jump into action.
Well, Rachel, sadly, we've come to the end of our time here this morning. But I just want to say it's been a pleasure to speak with you. And I know that your book would make a lovely Christmas gift for so many people. And every blessing to you and your family at this time.
May you walk on sunshine. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rachel.
Oh, wonderful.